out of space up in the north there.
In unleashing war among the innocents and the tens of thousands that died. And so that's why we're here again, in solidarity, and we will keep turning out until the last British troop is withdrawn from Iraq, Afghanistan, and until the Palestinians secure a just and peaceful settlement.
And what are you doing here today?
Well, there's a demonstration, marking the 5th anniversary of when the bombing of Iraq started. Really the beginning of an imperialist onslaught on the Middle East, on Iraq, a war for oil. And I think, on the 15th of February in 2003, just before the war started, there was 2 million people marched in London. And there's obviously a demo today to mark the anti-war movement, which it'll be a smaller demo, but I still think it's important that there are demonstrations happening against the war. And I think there are more and more people in society against the war and against the new Labour government, against their links to big business.
Yeah, plenty of money got in spare. And would you be interested in Socialist Party meetings? We've got them all over London, all over the country. Every week we discuss all issues. We got meetings in Newcastle every week. Yep. Yeah, we can pass your name on. Very nice bunch of people. Elaine's our organiser up there. She's, they're very relaxed. They've got young people.
I like it.
Brilliant. Yeah, have a read of it. And that's what cheers. Bye.
It will be a good demonstration, and I think a lot of political young people, will be here when they've seen on the television the events in Gaza, the invasion of northern Iraq by Turkey. It's still a radicalising issue, although there are other issues that are to the fore at the moment, like university fees, low pay in the workplaces, young people being criminalised. But the war is a background to all those issues, and for a whole generation of young people, including myself, the anti-war movement was the start of a politicisation and the real start of political activities.
We're here from the Socialist Party and also Socialist Students, which is a broad youth organisation. There'll be a lot of students here, and we're fighting not just to try and end the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and to say that there shouldn't be a war in Iran, but we're also fighting for a different kind of world, because we think the reason why these wars happen, they're pursuing the oil profit and so on, is because the whole world is run in the interest of profit for the multinational companies and the big powers, and we think until we change the world as well, so that all that wealth is owned and controlled democratically, in common, in the interest of everybody, then we're always going to be fighting against wars like this.
Is there any other matter by which this matter could have been resolved? Or
I think the only way that wars like this are going to be stopped is through mass movements of ordinary people from the bottom up, but not just demonstrations like this, although demonstrations are important, but we have to be organised in the workplaces. Really, the power lies with ordinary working class people, and if there was like a mass strike against the war, for example, backed up by demonstrations, that's how we can end wars like this.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for you. Thanks a lot.
Okay. And we'll see you in Tooting, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah, you said, and I believe when you first sort of got involved in socialist politics, the outbreak of the war around about 2003.
Well,
Tell us a little bit about the activity organised, in particular the stuff around school students.
You know, I joined the Socialist Party in 2002. It was around the time, you know, just after the bombing of Afghanistan. But obviously, you know, I was kind of swept along in the anti-war movement. And we set up an anti-war group in the college already, you know, which we'd organised, you know, protests and stuff, small protests in the FE college in Cardiff where I was. But on day X it kind of culminated and we had, you know, a few hundred students walk out from our college, linked up with the Cardiff University where there was a few thousand students. We marched, you know, into Cardiff town centre and, you know, really occupied the town centre, and then we went down to the Transport House, which is the headquarters of the trade unions and the Labour Party in Wales, and we mass blockaded outside the Transport House. And I think that was the start of you know, a massive movement that involved, you know, it really spread like wildfire, the idea of walking out against the war, the idea of acting you know, to try and change something in society. But obviously, unfortunately, you know, not enough pressure was put on the government to stop the war. There wasn't a political alternative posed at that stage, you know, which could have channeled all the energy for the anti-war movement into a party that stood against cuts, against privatisation, against war, you know, and could fight for young people and workers. So I think you know, it's still an anti-war mood in society, but obviously the political situation has changed.
All right. Alright, so what do you think the impact of today's demonstration is going to be?
Well, I think it's extremely important that these demonstrations take place, particularly in the countries that have got troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, because there's enormous suffering and death in both of those countries as a result of the occupations. And yet a majority of people in Britain, and I believe in the US as well, don't want to have troops from those countries in Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's very important that we show our strength of feeling on this.
In society generally, there's more of an anti-war mood. There's more of a, not just an anti-war mood, but an anti-establishment mood, an anti-big business mood in society. But unfortunately, at the moment, there's not really a political alternative that people can look to, you know, that stands up not just in Parliament, but stands up in the workplaces, in the communities, you know, for ordinary working people. So I think that's one of the things that we've got to try and raise today, is the idea of a new party, and also the idea of a socialist alternative as well. It's not just enough to be anti-war for the last 5 years, but you have to, you know, look to try and change, fundamentally change society. So.